Let me begin on a very pleasant, upbeat note. The fact that we're using this incredible equipment, a camcorder and a computer, to create this YouTube and be able to send it anywhere in the world is this obvious indication of absolute brilliance by the people who design this stuff. So we have people that are really intelligent, capable, dedicated, who know how to get things done. From there, we're going to go in reverse. Concerning the mortgage meltdown, concerning bank embezzlement by the bankers who ripped off $93 billion after they busted out the entire system and have the audacity to call that a bonus. A bonus for busting out the entire system, $93 billion. Where did that $93 billion come from? Where? Did it come from deposits? Did it come from equity in the banks? Where did it come from? Where does the equity in the banks come from? It comes from the profits, isn't it? So, how do you get the profits? Fees. How do you get the fees? Charging customers. For what? For bogus loans that the lenders all know will never be repaid. So they're not loans. When you give other people's money, the deposits, to people who you know up front can't pay back the loan or pay back the money. I hate to use the word loan because it's not a loan. And you get a fee for doing that. And it's systematic. It's not just one bank ripping off fees. How can that not be a conspiracy? Is that an amazing coincidence that all these bankers just, wow, let's make a bunch of fees. We'll tell people they can get this money for what they call teaser payments and no doc loans, that they don't fill out any documentation as to their credibility. And here's the money. And then send out these packages of mortgages down to the rating agencies, and they stamp AAA, and when they finally blows up, they testify under oath that their model didn't work. That 87% of the AAA crap that they knew was bogus to get a fee because their model didn't work. Okay. So this is where we're at for the moment. But let's also now look at the Corzine case, which is unique in that it is the only financial institution that ever busted out the entire equity of the institution and then ripped off the money in 38,000 customer accounts, 1.6 billion. Now, money doesn't walk around. It doesn't fly around. It doesn't do anything unless it's moved. It has to be moved by somebody who wants to move it from one account to another account. It's that simple. There's nothing complicated about it. So, the idea when these people testify, when John Corzine testifies and says that he hopes they'll find the money. Yeah, well, isn't that a nice hope? And these other people from the CME group and the CFTC and the Department of Justice and the trustee of the bankruptcy all seem to be befuddled that it's so complicated. And when they testify to the Congress under oath, they just don't see a crime here. And the Congress, most of whom are lawyers, they don't see any kind of a crime. It's just good faith mistakes. So much money flying around, and bingo, it just disappears and vanishes. And John Corzine is moving right off the radar screen. And he's going through the court system trying to get his case dismissed. So, now we're going to talk about my case and it getting dismissed, which is what I'm going to try to prevent. I was a victim of another financial fraud. This was the second one, actually. The first one I wrote a book about. And yes, I would love you to buy the book, because that's why authors write books, for people to buy them and actually read them. If I could send every person in this country who plans to vote in November, right a few weeks from now, I would love every one of them to read this book for free. But that's not going to happen. So I'm trying to focus upon people in this country who are in a position to wake up, because they can't be this stupid. Nobody is this stupid that John Corzine could just get away with ripping off 38,000 accounts. Okay? And not go to jail right then and there. Just like some guy who's hungry and homeless and he's shoplifting and he goes to jail. Okay? It isn't any more complicated than that. Now, I filed a complaint against PIMCO because PIMCO rigged the Treasury futures market in July, August, and September of 2010. And actually, they had done it before in 2005. In 2005. And they paid off 92 million bucks. 92 million bucks. If I was not guilty of ripping off the money, I wouldn't pay 92 cents, let alone 92 million. Because this should be a factor that people pay attention to when they give their money over to PIMCO. As a matter of fact, they all got ripped off in 2010. And I don't own any shares of PIMCO. But the point I'm getting at is to ignore the fact that PIMCO paid off the 92 million indicates that they believed that they were guilty of the fraud that they were accused of in 2005. We'll leave that alone for the moment. 2010, they pulled off another fraud to rig the Treasury futures market. And I was a victim of that. And I, on August 23rd, went to Manhattan to the CFTC office after I spoke to the guy, Charles Rickey, on the phone at the CFTC office in Washington, who was supposed to arrange a meeting for me in the CFTC's office in Manhattan. But when I got there, the best that ever happened was the two guys came down from their office to the lobby and met me, and that was the end of it. They prevented anything from going further. I then walked over to the FBI office and delivered a written complaint to the FBI that also was supposed to go to the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, who I have never heard from since. I then proceeded to complain to the U.S. Attorney David Fine here in the District of Connecticut, where I reside, about the PIMCO case. And he got an FBI agent to contact me, and I spelled it out in a written document and emailed it to the FBI, who was supposedly going to refer it back to the Southern District of New York. And I haven't heard another peep from that. So you see, these people are definitely involved in fraud. I'm talking about these people that are supposedly in regulating and prosecuting the Department of Justice, the CFTC, the SEC, the CME group. They're in bed with the crooks. And I don't even think they get any money. But that's not the point. Joe Paterno didn't get any money either from Sandusky. So why did he protect Sandusky when he knew that Sandusky was raping young boys in the shower at Penn State, and told the athletic director, and told the president of Penn State, and told the cops at Penn State, but didn't tell the local Pennsylvania state police or city police where Penn State is located to arrest Sandusky. So it wasn't that they got paid off. They're just screwballs. And I don't know how else you can figure it out, because there is no other way. They're demented, deranged screwballs. Now, for people here in America who are capable of earning a living and passing school and so on and so forth, but who blank out at all this crime, like the John Corzine case, and who make crazy statements like there's no evil, nothing is sinister. I mean, I'm not in their head, but I am an economist and a psychologist. So I know they have their wires crossed. And that's another crazy thing, that the psychologists in America completely fail to see this overwhelming derangement of millions of people who are staring and glaring at the vivid evidence of the John Corzine case, as an example, or the mortgage meltdown case, as an example. And here is a document that was sent to me to get this case dismissed based upon a law that gives absolute immunity. Now, nobody in their right mind would give absolute immunity or any immunity to anybody until after they committed a crime and were willing to make a deal and testify about their colleagues' involvement. For them to get a pass. That's what the immunity is used for. Thank you.